Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Football Chuggu Podcast. My name is Thomas Durning, and today I'm joined by my co-host, Pearse McLaughlin. Hello, Pearse.
Hello, how you doing?
I'm doing well. On today's podcast, we'll be discussing last weekend's English Premier League and Scottish Premier League results. We will also be discussing the end to the January transfer window. And at the end of the podcast, Pearse will be giving a rundown of all the latest Asian football news. So we'll start off with last weekend's English Premier League results. So we'll start off from the Saturday, the 3rd of February. So the results were Everton 2, Tottenham 2, Burnley 2, Fulham 2, Newcastle 4, Luton Town 4, Brighton 4, Crystal Palace 1, Sheffield United 0, Aston Villa 5. And then on Sunday, the 4th of February, the results were Bournemouth 1, Nottingham Forest 1, Chelsea 2, Wolves 4, Manchester United 3, West Ham United 0, Arsenal 3, Liverpool 1, and then finally one match on Monday the 5th of February, and that was Brentford 1, Manchester City 3. So starting off, Pearse, is there a match there that stands out to you most?
No, there's too many. There's that many good results. I think the standout for me, you also go to high scoring ones. Like you get Newcastle, Luton 4-4, Sheffield United 0, Aston Villa 5. And for me, I think the one that was the biggest shock was Chelsea 2, Wolves 4. I thought obviously at Stamford Bridge, Pochettino has kind of turned a little corner with Chelsea. So you thought. And then Wales just went to Stamford Bridge and totally dominated and played scintillating football at times. Mateus Cunha got a hat-trick, and what a hat-trick it was. Some of the link-up play, Chelsea just couldn't handle them. And I don't really think Chelsea defended as a unit, defended well, kept getting caught out in the counter-attack, and just spaces all over the park. And it just looks like a team that it just doesn't gel. There's a lot of really disorganisation in the lineup. And like you say, man, Gary O'Neill was just going from strength to strength with Wolves, and I think last year he done brilliantly with Bournemouth, and again he's doing it at Wolves. And I think for me, whenever I tune into the Barclays Premier League, they're a side I always like to watch because they just play some exciting stuff. They get some exciting talent. And they've had some big results this season against some of the top sides, and that's another notch in the belt. And I think obviously you've got to mention the Arsenal 3, Liverpool 1. I think that's a statement win, because Liverpool obviously top of the league, had a little bit of a gap. Obviously, the fact that Jurgen Klopp was announced that he's leaving at the end of the season. They had a brilliant result last week. And you'd expect them to go to the Emirates as favourites because I think even most Arsenal fans would admit the same thing, that Arsenal just haven't been as free flowing as they have been since last season, but they've been a little bit more solid defensively with the addition of Declan Rice. But no, I thought they were just superb and limited Liverpool to to nothing really. Like they scored through an own goal, like a flukish goal in the end. But I thought Arsenal thoroughly deserved a win, and I think I don't know if you've seen it, but the Trossard goal was a pick of the bunch for me. On the halfway line, lovely turn, and then just drives at the heart of the defence. And then Alisson doesn't cover his ceiling glory, and then the second one as well, Martinelli. I don't know what Van Dijk and Alisson were doing. I think just a lot of errors at the back, and it's kind of unlike Liverpool because usually you can rely on Virgil van Dijk and Alisson. But no, it was a shock defeat. And it just shows you that Arsenal are contenders this year yet again, and it's going to get right down to the wire between them, City, and Liverpool. And that's my two standout fixtures for the weekend.
Yeah, no. There's just you're right. There's so many. I mean, it was such a good weekend of football in the Premier League. because there's just so many. You're looking for the results. There's so many you could choose. I'm going to say my most significant one was the one you just talked about, which was Arsenal 3, Liverpool 1. It's significant because of that result, which means that Arsenal are now right back in the title race. I think if they'd have lost that match, I think that would have been them pretty much out of the title race. But the fact they won, right now we're looking at a three-horse title race with Liverpool, City, and Arsenal. And Arsenal totally deserve to win. They're much the better side. First half especially, they were brilliant. They really controlled the match. Basically, Liverpool didn't play well at all. They were missing quite a few players like Szoboszlai. I think he was quite a big miss. There was no Salah. And obviously Darwin Núñez didn't start, which was a bit of a surprise. But Arsenal deserve to win. And they are definitely right back in the title race now. So that for me, that was my most significant result. I've got to mention the Newcastle Luton match, which ended 4-4. Not every week you see a match that ends 4-4. What a brilliant match that was. And Luton are just, they just seem to be improving week on week. Results that they're getting is really impressive. They beat Brighton, was it 4-0 last week as well. And they just seem to be collecting points now every match now. And the more points they collect, the more they'll get away from that relegation zone. And let's be honest, everybody thought that at the start of the season they were going to be hands down that they'll have no chance. They'll get relegated straight away. But at the moment, you have to say that they're going to probably stay up. And they've got so many good players as well. Ross Barkley, who kind of had a great time at Everton. And he went to Chelsea. It didn't quite work for him, and then he kind of went away for a while. But he's come back to the Premier League with Luton, and he's been brilliant. And there's now even calls for him to get into that England team, which is brilliant for him. So that was a match that you had to kind of mention. And then lastly, I just want to touch on the Chelsea 2 Wolves 4 match. I think that was the first time Wolves had won at Chelsea since about 1980 something. I can't remember which year specifically, but a pretty significant result for Wolves. Matheus Cunha got a hat-trick. And just firstly about Wolves, Gary O'Neill's done a brilliant. I think he's got to be a contender for manager of the season because he only had 4 days to prepare, because he only arrived at Wolves 4 days before the season started. They've got a lot. They sold a lot of the players in the summer, like Neves. They had to sell. They lost their manager as well, and Lopetegui. So he's had all that to deal with, and he's just come in, and he's just the players have responded to him, and he's hardly had any money to spend. January window just did as well. He wanted a striker, and he didn't get one. So he's had that to deal with, and the job he's done is brilliant. And definitely for me, he's a shout for manager of the season because I don't think many managers in the world could kind of deal with that fact that they only arrived 4 days before the season starts. They didn't even have a pre-season.
That's
And then in terms
done that now,
of
Tom, isn't it? That's twice you've done it.
yeah,
You've
he
done
did
the
that.
same last season at Bournemouth.
Yeah, because the manager got sacked. I think it was a few games into the season, so the season hadn't really started. And Bournemouth were in a lot of trouble. And then he got appointed, and they managed to steer them away from relegation. I think they were quite comfortable mid-table the season that they finished. So he's a really, really good manager. He really is. I think he's quite underrated. And I could see him kind of having a really, really good career. I think he's already got a good career in management, but I think he'll get even better and just keep going up and up. It's a brilliant job he's done so far at Wolves, and also the job he did at Bournemouth. And then just in terms of Chelsea, there's just big problems there. For a team that spent £1 billion, things just aren't going well at the moment at all. They're just losing games, week by week. That's 8 goals they've conceded now in 2 games. There just seems to be so many issues at the moment. And then Pochettino's now under pressure. I mean, in my opinion, I don't think he should get sacked. I think a lot of Chelsea fans are kind of thinking that he should, but Chelsea can't keep sacking the managers because I think they just have to accept that Chelsea are in such a different place as to what they were 4 years ago under, Thomas Tuchel when they won Champions League. And this is a new team, a very young team, and they're just going to have to be patient with them. And I think it's going to be a bit more painful for Chelsea fans for the next, especially this season and probably the season after, until they seem to start making progress because everything's just new there now. The whole squad's new, and they're all young as well, so they're going to have time to kind of gel together. And that I think that's just the way it is at Chelsea at the moment. But I don't know if Pochettino is going to have that time to kind of, turn it around and start picking up results. But they are in a final, in the League Cup final. So if they win that, you never know, that might just change the whole mentality in the squad. But you never know. So yeah, that was a match that I have to point out as well. So we'll move on to last weekend's Scottish Premier League results now. So I'll start off again on Saturday, the 3rd of February, which every match in the Scottish Premier League was played on Saturday. So the results were Aberdeen 1, Celtic 1, Dundee 2, Hearts 3, Hibs 0, St Mirren 3, Motherwell 1, Kilmarnock 1, Rangers 3, Livingston 0, and Ross County 0, St Johnstone 1. So once again, Pearse, I just want to ask you which match stands out to you the most?
I think I'm going to two matches stand out to me this weekend. So I think firstly we touch on the Aberdeen 1, Celtic 1. Thought the first half of that game, Celtic were in total control, missed a few guilty chances, particularly Paulo Bernardo's, who had an open goal and just clipped it over the bar. And they had chance after chance, and they had Aberdeen penned in at times around surrounding their own box. Miovski was isolated, something awful. And then the second half was a completely different story. Aberdeen were just wave after wave after wave of attack. I don't know if it was a new manager bounce, like the caretaker manager, but they just get in the faces of Celtic and gave them absolutely no time. And I thought Mike Narowski, right centre half, had a torrid time, and rightly so, got hooked with quarter an hour to go. He just couldn't deal with the physical presence and the pressure. And I think the Celtic midfield was just disjointed at time between Bernardo, McGregor, and O'Reilly. They just couldn't get a foothold in the game, and sometimes they're just getting bypassed. And I thought Bojan Miovski's goal was sensational. Just bent it around Liam Scales, and nothing Joe Hart could do. And then quickly after that, Celtic get an unlikely equalised at the time because they were a bit under pressure. Nicholas Kounmby's first Celtic goal deflected into the bottom corner. And then after that, it was Aberdeen that looked the most likely to score. Joe Hart had a couple of tremendous saves, particularly the one from Graeme Shinnie, where it just looked like a certain goal. And I think he's been one of the standout performers for Celtic this season, and a season that has been quite inconsistent. Well, they haven't really strung too many wins together in a row, consistently throughout the whole campaign so far, and that's why Celtic Rangers are neck and neck this campaign. It's going to get right down to the wire, and unless Celtic kind of tighten up in terms of like the results away from home and other matches, because as you've seen when they play against Rangers, they seem to raise their game, but it's about the other sides in the league that they seem to just be dropping points and throwing away leads and showing a bit of inconsistency in their game. And the other one for me, the standout was the one at Easter Road where St Mirren won 3-0. Thought it was a thoroughly dominant performance by St Mirren. Nick Montgomery's done a good job at Hibs, but to win 3-0 at Easter Road is a pretty outstanding scoreline, and obviously the scoring for former Hibby, and that was Gogic for a set piece. And no, they just had the game done at half time, 3 goals, and then in the second half, I don't think Hibs really threatened at all. And that's just another notching the belt for Stephen Robinson. I think he's just a tremendous SPFL manager, and he just got St Mirren so solid. And obviously, you can see with since I think it was around January time they got a Younger back in the starting lineup, back for his injury, and what a difference he makes to the side. He just offers that aerial threat. He's a presence. He's quick. It runs in behind all day long, and then they've got that hard working midfield with like Kilty and Mark O'Hara and obviously Gogic as well. But no, and obviously Kwon as well, played on loan from Celtic. He had a pretty solid game. That's his second start in a row as well. So promising signs for St Mirren. That's a massive result, and that's my two standout for the weekend fixtures for the SPFL.
Yeah, mine's is actually quite different. My standout match from the weekend is Dundee 2, Hearts 3. Firstly, it was a brilliant match. You know, it was an entertaining match, end to end. You know, both teams trying to win it, which you know is brilliant to see. But again, Hearts kind of broke Dundee's hearts. You know, it was only a couple of weeks ago that Hearts played Dundee at Tynecastle. You know, Dundee were 2-0 up at half time. Then second half, Hearts came back and won 3-2. And then on Saturday, Dundee were 2-1 up in the match. Hearts got a goal back, and then in the last 5 minutes of the game, Hearts scored again to win the match. So Dundee, I think, kind of been broken-hearted twice against Hearts this season. But I thought it was just a brilliant match to watch. You know, this run that Hearts are on at the moment is amazing. You know, I think they've collected more points than Celtic in the last kind of 10 matches, which just shows, you know, that's quite unheard of. You know, you don't really see that a lot with teams outside of Glasgow collecting more points over a run of matches. And the fact that Hearts have done it. And you know, it's weird with Hearts because I actually don't think playing, you know, that well, but they just seem to have this character in them at the moment where they just always seem to go right to the end. You know, they've scored quite a lot of last minute winners. You know, and there just seems to be a good kind of character at the moment. And, you know, they are so sitting comfortably in third place. You know, I think they're 12 points ahead of fourth. You know, so they look like they've got that third place kind of nailed on now. And you've got to talk about Lawrence Shankland once again. He gets the winner, you know, with a really good finish in the bottom corner. And, you know, I think, again, we talk about Shankland every week on this podcast, but, you know, if he goes in the summer, Hearts are going to be, well, obviously they're going to be devastated because if it wasn't for Shankland in that Hearts team, I don't know what Hearts would be. But they're going to get a lot of money for him because he's just a goal scorer, and you know he can win matches on his own. You know, and it's in terms of Scotland as well for the Euros. You know, I think he's got a great shout to even start in these striker positions at the Euros because you know the run he's on at the moment is amazing. He's having such a great season. So that was my standout match from the weekend. Obviously, the Hibs St Mirren match was quite significant. Obviously, St Mirren going 3-0 up at half time. They had the match wrapped up at half time. You know, seems to be a lot of problems at Hibs. You know, I think Nick Montgomery's under a bit of pressure now. You know, they haven't won a match for quite a while now. I think that's 6 games now. I think they're winless. I'm not quite sure, but you know, they signed a lot of players in January as well. So they've basically got a new squad basically that he's going to have to quickly gel into a team because they're going to have to start picking up results pretty quickly because Hibs should be fighting for that third place, and at the moment they're nowhere near it. So I think that Montgomery's under a bit of pressure and he's got a lot of work to do. And then lastly, I just want to touch on the Aberdeen Celtic match, which finished 1-1. You know, as you said, Celtic first half were really good, I thought. You know, should have been at least 2 goals up at half time. You know, Aberdeen couldn't even get out their own half. You know, they didn't even touch the ball in the opposition box in the first half, which just goes to show how dominant Celtic were. But in the second half, it changed and Aberdeen got into the game more. And at the end of the day, you probably should have. You probably have to say that Aberdeen in that second half probably deserved to win because they had the better chances in the second half. You know, and Celtic kind of just seemed to run out of steam in that second half. And yeah, again, that's another performance where Celtic have dropped points. You know, and yeah, I mean, it's It's a pretty significant result. So that the three matches I wanted to discuss, but my standout one was the Dundee 2 Hearts 3 match. We also had a couple of results at matches that were played last night on Tuesday the 6th of February. So we had Motherwell 5, Ross County 0, and Rangers 2, Aberdeen 1. So we'll start off with the Rangers 2 Aberdeen 1 match, Pearse. So this was Neil Warnock's first game as Aberdeen manager. He got appointed last week, earlier in the week there on Monday. So firstly, Pearse, I just want to ask you about that appointment, the fact that Aberdeen have appointed Neil Warnock, and then also I just want to when you touch on how the match went.
Well, in terms of the appointment itself, I think that Aberdeen have went with an experienced head, because obviously they feel as if Barry Robson, young manager, it's not working out, and it would now give them like damage limitation. It'll give them time to then pick the right manager come the summer, and they'll probably go with another young manager again, but the one that fits right for them and how they want to go about their business. And in terms of Neil Warnock himself, I think he's quite blockbuster. I think he's a massive name, and he's always wanted to manage in Scotland. And obviously, I don't know if you've watched his press conference before even his first match. It was sensational. There's so many comedy bites in that. The fact is he's already got a house in Dunoon. He's got a brick and that with his family and that. He's always wanted the job. He actually get rejected a couple of years ago by Aberdeen. So it's come full circle. And I think he's a brilliant appointment. And obviously, you've seen the job he did last season, when they were struggling Huddersfield in the Championship and kept them up when they looked dead and buried. And he's had so many promotions and cup wins as well, and get beaten big sides in the FA Cup and Carabao Cup. So he's got a lot of experience in the game, and I think that's what Aberdeen need, an experienced head to steer the ship. And I think you've seen that last night. I think Rangers, also high flying under Clement, but it was a very, very close game. And it was fine margins between Rangers getting a victory and obviously dropping 2 points, because I thought Aberdeen were thoroughly deserving of at least a point. Because the two goals that Rangers scored were obviously rebounds. Two mistakes by Keller Roos, which I think he will be kicking himself at. And Aberdeen scored a brilliant goal. Miovski out muscling Golson, and then dinking Jack Butland, which is no mean feat. And obviously that's now his 20th goal of the season. And that's an Aberdeen side that's rarely creates anything. He's usually isolated. And the variety of goals that Bojan Miovski scores, I think he's up there with Shankland in terms of the two of them are just standout strikers in this league. That I think that they've got another level in them that I'm surprised that Celtic or Rangers didn't go and test the waters with a bid. Because you look at Celtic, obviously signing Adam Eade on loan, and you look at Rangers across the city, and Dessers and Danilo have failed to capture the hearts of Rangers fans. They've not really found the back of the net all too often. And then you've got Fabio Silva on loan from Wolves, but he's not a prolific goal scorer. And I think he's only scored one goal so far for Rangers. So that's just a surprising. But obviously there's a couple of contentious decisions in terms of a couple of penalty shoots for Aberdeen, but waved away by the officials, which is a bit surprising because I think at least one of them maybe should have been given, both by Connor Golson. But no, I thought Aberdeen played well. And like you said, that he touched on his post-match press conference that going 1-0 down at Ibrox a lot of teams could crumble, but his side defended well, and they grew into the game, and they were 1-1 up at half time, 1-1 at half time, and I thought he made them a little bit more solid, because you've seen with Aberdeen under Barry Olsen when they went to Celtic Park, they lost 6-0. So results like that were in Barry Olsen's tenure, but no, I think Aberdeen will be fighting for that third, fourth position in the league, and I think Stephen Warnock will be an absolute treasure for this league, and I think it'll be entertaining to say the least.
Yeah. Firstly, on his appointment, as you said, Pearse, I think it's kind of a blockbuster name in Scottish football because he's so well known in English football. You know, he's had such a great career. I can't even begin to count how many matches he's got under his belt in terms of his management career. He's so experienced. And the fact he's 75 and he still wants to keep going and still manage teams. It's quite good to see, and he's such a character as well. He's every press conference he has. I just seem to laugh because he just comes out with lines and stuff that just they're just so funny. So it's such a good it's such a good name to have in Scottish football. Might bring more eyes to the game up here. We don't know, but yeah, in terms of Neil Warnock itself, it's just it's brilliant to see him in Scottish football. And in terms of in Aberdeen's case, I think it's a really kind of smart appointment. We talked about Barry Robson. It hadn't been going well for him this season. He's a young manager. This was his first job, and in the league this season, it just didn't seem. It wasn't going well for him. They're languishing in 10th, 9th place. That's not where Aberdeen should be at all. So I wasn't really surprised when he did get let go. But to bring Neil Warnock in until the end of the season, I think it's a really smart appointment because he's been there and done it. He knows what it's like, to take jobs at teams that are struggling. As you mentioned, the Huddersfield job last season that he did. They were struggling and he managed to get them out of relegation. So I think it's a really smart appointment for Aberdeen. And then in terms of the game last night, I actually thought Aberdeen played pretty well. Rangers had a lot of opportunities in the first half. They could have scored more than one goal. They were in quite good control of the match, but then Aberdeen got that goal just before half time with Mirovski, who again, if it wasn't for him, I don't know where I think Aberdeen could be in an even worse position because he's just been brilliant this season. I think he's got 20 goals this season for Aberdeen, so it just shows how important he is to them. And then in the second half, again, they kind of made a good go of it, but at the end of the day, Rangers did manage to get that all-important goal to win the match. So it's going to be interesting in the next kind of 3 months to see how Neil Warnock's going to do. He did say in his press conference that he wants to win the cup because obviously Aberdeen they've still got the Scottish Cup to play for. So could you imagine if he ended up winning that? That'd be what a story that would be. Neil Warnock winning the Scottish Cup at 75 years old. That would be some story. So so that just touching on that match and also the Neil Warnock appointment. And then we also had one more match last night, which was Motherwell 5, Ross County 0. What a result that is for Motherwell. So, again, Pearse, just want to ask you about that result. What do you think?
I thought Motherwell absolutely demolished Ross County.
I think we're 4-0 up at half time.
They're 4-0 up at half time. I think obviously the start of the show was Blair Spittle. I don't know if you've seen his 2 goals, but especially second one, my word. He just bends it into the top right hand corner. He just picks his spot. He's got that quality. And even in the second half, his pass through for Vale late on in the game, it's eye the needle stuff. It's something you probably see like a Rio Hatate make or a Matt O'Reilly. That quality in terms of the final ball, the weight of the pass, and his link-up play as well was just brilliant. I thought Motherwell at times were just playing Ross County off the park, and Ross County looked frustrated, disinterested. They just looked lost. And Derek Adams' post-match press conference didn't heal the wounds of the Ross County supporters, and he looks like a defeated man. And I don't think he'll last in the job too long because he's been very controversial since he's came back up to Scotland. And also I think this might be a step too far. This is a massive defeat, and they're languishing down at the bottom of the table. They're just only above Livingston, who are just having a woeful season. So no, I don't think Derek Adams will be in the job too long. But I thought Motherwell brilliant because Stuart Kettlewell against his former side have had a poor start to the season, but now they're starting to pick up results. And I think this will do the world of confidence a world of good. Brilliant result, and I thought Bliss Battle was fantastic on the day.
Yeah, just briefly on the rematch, what a result that's for Motherwell because they've had it tough this season. They've they had such a good start to the season, and then the season just kind of fell off for them, and they haven't won a lot of matches this season. But the fact that they won 5-0 last night against a team who are really close to them in the table is so significant for them. And in the last kind of few matches as well, Motherwell have kind of started picking up points. So that's a brilliant result for them, and that'll take them away a little bit from the relegation playoffs. Um, and it kind of gives them that little bit of breathing space. So in terms of Motherwell, a brilliant result. That'll kind of ease some pressure off of Stuart Kettlewell. And then in terms of Ross County, again, it's a bad result for them. They got beat at weekend, 1-0 against St Johnstone, and then they get beat 5-0 against Motherwell. And Motherwell and St Johnstone are both fighting relegation as well. So two very, very big matches that they've been beaten. And then, as you said, Derek Adams is, he's been pretty controversial since he's come back to Scottish football with some of the comments he's made. And I think he said last night after the match that he's going to be, contemplating his future. He said he's going to be talking to the CEO and the chairman of Ross County about where his future lies. So that's pretty significant. The fact that he said that out in public kind of shows that he is really kind of considering his future. It just seems to be Ross County have just made the headlines since Derek Adams has come back for all the wrong reasons. We haven't talked about the performances or anything. We've talked about what the comments that the manager's made after the match, which kind of says a lot, but the fact that all's not well there at the moment. So, yeah, I'm not really sure where Ross County and Derek Adams go at the moment. And as you said, I wouldn't really be surprised if Derek Adams did leave, because it just doesn't seem to be, things just don't seem to be working out there for him at all at the moment. So we'll move on to the transfer window just briefly. So the January transfer window closed last week. A very quiet window. Not a lot of happening in terms of transfers. So I just wanted to ask you, Pearse, what you thought of it, and was it a player that stood out to you in terms of signing for another club? What do you think?
I thought obviously it just shows you a lot of clubs spent a lot of money during the summer, probably a bit too much, and maybe a lot of clubs had to balance in terms of financial fair play, in terms of getting fines and suspensions and possible bans from competitions and deducted points. So I think a lot of clubs were a little bit more strategic, and you've seen a lot of loan signings, especially from the Premier League, for example. I think probably the standout kind of signing maybe would probably be like a Timo Werner on loan to Tottenham. I think that's probably the standout signing for me, and possibly maybe Eric Dyer going to Bayern Munich. Both loan signings, but I think obviously, no, I think it was maybe a loan signing to buy from Eric Dyer. I think that was the most like kind of out the blue one, because he wasn't getting a look in at Tottenham, and then obviously Timo Werner. Played the Premier League before at Chelsea, but you just feel as if he's like a perfect fit for Ange and fit into his system, and you maybe get the best out of him. But in terms of the transfer window, it was a quiet one, and it was not unexpected, but it was to be expected considering how much clubs spent during the summer window.
Yeah, a very quiet window, probably the quietest it's been for a long time. I can't remember the giant transfer window being that quiet. None of the top English Premier League clubs really made any significant signs, apart from Tottenham, who signed Dragusan and Timo Werner. So not a lot happening at all in terms of big, massive signs. I think a lot of these clubs will be waiting until the summer. But my kind of standout signing of the January transfer window is probably the ones that you've just said, Eric Dyer and Timo Werner. Um, you know, I think Timo Werner, because I think it was such a smart sign because of the fact that Son's away to the Africa Cup of Nations.
Asian Cup.
So, the Asian Cup. Sorry, I was thinking of Salah there. The fact that they kind of Tottenham are kind of short in attack positions. So I thought Timo Werner was a really smart signing. And I think that was quite a significant one. And obviously Eric Dyer, just because of the fact of how long he'd been at Tottenham. He's been such a big player for them the last few seasons, and then the fact that he'd went to Bayern Munich, which I didn't really expect, but quite a significant sign as well. Also touching on that, one more, which was John Henderson going to Ajax, which again was pretty significant because all the controversy with John Henderson going to Saudi Arabia last summer, and then it only lasted kind of a few months, and now he's back in European football at Ajax. So yeah, a pretty quiet window overall. So for the final part of the show, Pearse will now give his Asian football roundup.
Yeah, so in terms of Asian football news, Ulsan Hyundai defender, or Ulsan HD as it's now known as, have admitted that they have received an offer from Sveda, which is obviously Red Star Belgrade in Serbia, for Seoul Young-woo, but have denied that negotiations are currently at the final stage. If the move is completed, he would link up with his international teammate in Hwang In-bom. And also the massive news surrounding the K-League at the moment is Jesse Lingard's pending move to FC Seoul. So it's on the verge of completion. He's already passed his first part of his medical. He arrived on Monday and is expected to sign later this week if everything goes to plan. He was greeted by 15,000 eager fans at Incheon Airport when he arrived. And it's like the buzz around the place in South Korea. You'd expect you're thinking probably Messi's arrived, but it's only Jesse Lingard. But it just shows you the excitement of someone, an England internationalist, only 31 years of age, put in the Premier League last season, that it can bring to this league. So FC Seoul head into the 2024 K-League 1 season with a new coach in Kim Ji-dong, who guided Hwang Steelers to second place, finished last season, and also a Korean FA Cup win. So Lingard has agreed a 2-year deal with an option of a further year. The former Manchester United star turned down many offers, most noticeably from Saudi Arabia, to come to South Korea as he wanted a fresh start in a new country, and his salary is expected to be the highest in the league currently. So, Seoul World Cup Stadium is now going to be the host of the 2024 K-League 1 Korean FA Cup final. After discussions by the KFA and the K-League, it was decided that Seoul World Cup Stadium was the best fit for the showpiece final. So Stuttgart's Hiroki Ito has turned down an offer from Saudi Arabia's Al Nassr. The club was willing to pay a £21.6 million transfer fee and offered Ito a yearly salary of just under £8 million. So that works out at 150 grand a week, tax free. It was a long-term contract, but Ito wants to stay in Europe and make sure that Stuttgart qualify for European football next season. And they're cutting them close for that in the Bundesliga this term, having a terrific campaign to date. So European football is a massive factor of decision, and it's refreshing to see that not all players want to take the bag and go to Saudi Arabia. So Japan and Celtic midfielder Ryo Hatate pulled up with a calf injury during Japan's last 16 victory over Bahrain. He has since returned to Celtic, where manager Brendan Rodgers has confirmed he has blown both his calves in the press conference, and is expected to be out for at least 6 to 8 weeks. This is a massive blow for the player, as it's been a stop-start campaign so far due to niggling injuries, and hopefully makes a full recovery as on the pitch again, both for Celtic and Japan in the not too distant future. Yeah, so South Korea have been knocked out of the Asian Cup semi-final. They lost in a shock 2-0 win to Jordan last night. So second half goals from Yazan Al-Namat and Musa Al-Tamari gave Jordan a shock 2-0 victory over South Korea. It was a step too far for South Korea, as they couldn't rescue it late on like they had done in the previous rounds in the last 16 versus Saudi Arabia. They drew 1-1 equalised in the 99th minute through Chuggu Sung, and they won 4-2 on penalties. And in the quarterfinals, they played Australia, and it required a 94th minute penalty to equalise. And in extra time, Son Heung-min steps up with a trademark free kick to win the match 2-1 in extra time. And so Jordan thoroughly deserved their win, as the two goals were straight out the top drawer. They defended like lives depended on it, and they just wanted that bit more. And Jurgen Klinsmann will now be under serious pressure, as the Asian Cup was a priority to win. And performances haven't been the greatest in this tournament, and it remains to be seen if Klinsmann can survive the shock defeat. And also, so that's South Korea knocked out the semi-finals. Well, Japan last week, at the end of last week, get knocked out in the quarterfinals. So they lost to 2-1 to Iran. So Japan were the tournament favourites getting into this tournament because of the squad depth that they have across the whole board. But Iran were just so much better than Japan. Japan took an early lead, but then since then it was just wave after wave after wave of attack from Iran, and the pressure told Japan, and they couldn't hold on, and they conceded a 96-minute penalty to former Brighton man Jaka Hambash, who showed tremendous composure, and it sends Iran into the semi-final. So, Tom, I just wanted to ask you, in terms of obviously Jesse Lingard, what do you think of that move in terms of the K-League? Does that come as a bit of a shock to you?
It is a bit, yeah, because I was fully expecting him to go to Saudi Arabia. There's been lots of talk about him kind of moving over there. I'm actually surprised in that way he didn't really get a club in England, because at the end of the day, he is quite still young. It was only a couple of seasons ago he had a really good season at West Ham. So, and I've always found Jesse Lingard to be a really good player. That can really stamp his authority in the Premier League. So I was quite surprised he never got a club in the Premier League, and also I was surprised that he never managed to get to a club in Saudi Arabia, because he was training over there and everything, and it did seem likely that was going to happen. But in terms of him going to FC Seoul in South Korea, I think it's such a brilliant sign for the South Korean league. I can't really remember the last time a player of kind of Jesse Lingard's caliber and kind of known name kind of went to the South Korean league. It's going to really help the South Korean league a lot, in terms of bringing a lot more eyes to the league. And I think it's quite a good move for Jesse Lingard. It's something totally different for him. He's going to be a household name over there. And I think it's a really, really good move for him. And I think for South Korean football, it's going to really help them out a lot. Because as I've just said, Jesse Lingard is quite a well-known name in the world of football. So a really, really good signing for South Korean football. And I really hope it goes well for him over there. Because if it goes well for him over there, then even more players in Europe, and also in English football, might turn around and say, "Oh, you know what? Going to South Korea and to play football is a really good idea." So all in all, really good signing.
Yeah, Tom, I think you're spot on there, mate. I think that he's not took the decision lightly. I think he's weighed up his options in terms of money and obviously culture. And the fact is, if you went to Saudi Arabia, you'd be one of many players that went there for the money. He wouldn't be the biggest man, but I think he's went to Korea. And you've seen the fans when they greeted him at the airport. It was bedlam. It was broadcast live over the news. Everyone was talking about Jesse Lingard. And I think, obviously, I live over here. So many Brazilians playing the Korean League, and the Brazilians and the foreign players are worshipped like gods. So the fact is, I think like Jesse Lingard, he's better than most of those players, if not the best. He will be the best player in the league, and obviously it'll bring a lot more English fans and European fans keeping eyes on the Korean league, and I think it will grow the audience. And I think that's what Kim Ji-dong, the manager, has touched on. The fact is, he's a player of tremendous quality and he can play a number of positions, and obviously it will bring more eyes on the Korean league, and I think it will help grow the league. And I think it's just a brilliant move. And yeah, so that's all your latest Asian football news.
Thank you, Pearse. And thank you everyone for listening to this episode of the Football Chuggu Podcast. This podcast will be available to listen to on the Football Chuggu YouTube channel, also the Football Chuggu website. Thanks for listening and see you soon.
Bye bye.